Right now, beneath a perfectly ordinary cemetery in Ithaca, New York, there is a metropolis functioning um, flawlessly.
Yeah, and it's a massive one,
Exactly. It has a population of about 5.5 million residents.
which is just wild to think about.
It really is. It supports a massive agricultural economy, and it has been running in absolute silence for over a century, entirely without a single human noticing.
Completely under the radar.
Right.
This is Better Side of the World, where we find good news from around the world. Introducing your favorite AI hosts, Delta and Tide.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to explore the massive, often hidden systems that are actively reshaping our daily lives and, our long-term sustainability.
This is a really exciting topic.
It is. And we've got a fantastic stack of sources today from the week of May 23rd through the 29th, 2026. We are pulling from sustainability tech reports, Gemini summaries, and some really uplifting journalism from the Good News Network and Positive News.
A lot of great data to dig into.
For sure. So to give you a quick preview, we'll be looking at everything from multi-million member insect metropolises beneath your feet to the silent autonomous pods that are about to completely revolutionize your morning commute.
And honestly, the very layout of your neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's unpack this using that incredible discovery I mentioned at the top, the Ithaca bees.
Right, the 5.5 million ground nesting bees.
Yeah, it's a species called Andrena regularis, and they are living right beneath the East Lawn Cemetery in Ithaca. Now, when most of us picture a bee colony, we naturally picture a huge, buzzing, honey-filled hive with a queen, right?
Exactly, like a big singular structure hanging from a branch or in one of those wooden apiary boxes.
Right, but these bees...
They operate on a completely different mechanical model. I mean, they're solitary.
Wait, a colony of 5 million, but they're solitary.
Yeah, it's fascinating. They aren't building a collective hive at all. Every single female bee excavates her own vertical shaft deep down into the soil to create individual chambers for her offspring.
Oh, wow.
They just happen to be sharing a zip code because the environmental conditions there are absolutely perfect, but they aren't, sharing a living room.
So they are basically building millions of tiny individual subterranean studio apartments.
Exactly. And the mechanics of why they picked this specific cemetery are really cool. The soil is sandy and well-drained, which obviously makes excavation
It
easy.
keeps us from flooding, I'd imagine.
Right, exactly. But the critical factor is that the ground there has been totally undisturbed by plows or construction or heavy foot traffic for over 100 years.
So nature has just been running its own ultra-efficient, completely invisible infrastructure for a century, right under our noses.
Yeah, and the economic impact of that hidden engine is staggering. These solitary bees are absolutely vital pollinators for regional agriculture.
Especially the apple crops in New York, right?
Oh, massively. They emerge exactly when the apple trees bloom. And because they don't have a centralized, honey-filled hive to defend, they're incredibly docile. They focus all their energy just on foraging.
It's just a highly localized, high-efficiency network.
You could easily be eating an apple today that owes its entire existence to this invisible insect metropolis that nobody even knew was there.
That is just amazing. And it really highlights a broader concept, the fact that nature hides its most critical infrastructure.
Right.
And that principle scales up dramatically when we look at the second major geological discovery from our stack this week.
Ah, yes. The deep aquifer.
Yeah, scientists utilizing these advanced electromagnetic sensors just confirmed the existence of a colossal freshwater aquifer. And it's located 400 meters beneath the Atlantic Ocean seafloor, just off the coast of New England.
What's fascinating here is that finding fresh water underneath the salty ocean sounds like a total paradox.
It really does, yeah.
But mechanically, it is this brilliant geological time capsule. Because during the last ice age, massive glaciers covered that whole region.
Okay.
And as they slowly melted, the runoff didn't just flow into the sea, it soaked deep down into the exposed, really porous sediment layers of the continental shelf.
Oh, I see.
And then over thousands of years, as the sea levels rose, heavy, impermeable layers of clay and rock basically formed over that sand.
So the clay acts like a massive geological lid.
Exactly.
It completely seals the salt water out and keeps the glacial freshwater locked in under all that pressure.
And the sheer scale of this reservoir is hard to overstate. Based on the sensor data, this hidden aquifer contains enough fresh water to theoretically supply the entire population of New York City for over 800 years.
8 centuries of water.
8 centuries. Perfectly insulated. It requires no massive concrete dams, no huge sprawling reservoirs that displace human settlements.
No loud filtration plants either.
None of it. It has just been sitting quietly beneath the ocean floor.
Which really proves that biomimicry has to be the goal for us.
Right.
Nature stores its most vital resources totally out of sight and runs these massive life support systems silently.
Yeah, human technology is finally catching up to this philosophy. We're shifting from the loud, polluting, highly visible systems of the past to quiet, seamless innovations.
Right, because if there's one thing that represents that loud, brute force aesthetic of the industrial age, it's the global supply chain. I mean, the diesel freight truck is pretty much the loudest, most visible polluting mechanism we have.
Oh, absolutely. And electrifying heavy industry is really the ultimate test of this new paradigm. We are talking about trying to make a 40-ton semi-truck operate with the quiet efficiency of an underground bee colony.
Which sounds impossible, but the technical reports highlight a massive milestone that just happened on May 28th.
The Windrose truck.
Yes, an all-electric semi-trailer truck made by this company, Windrose, just successfully completed a really grueling, heavy-duty inner-city haul, all the way from Canberra to Sydney in Australia on a single charge.
And that route is notoriously tough.
Right. It is not a flat, easy test track. It's a real-world, undulating highway corridor. To move 40 tons of freight across that kind of distance on a single charge.
It proves that the physics of battery density have fundamentally crossed a threshold.
Exactly. We're no longer just talking about lab prototypes. We're talking about commercial viability.
Yeah.
And the source gave this shocking statistic. The demonstration resulted in an 84% reduction in fuel costs
Wow.
compared to a traditional diesel truck making the exact same run.
And when you factor in how much of the retail price of our everyday goods is dictated purely by the diesel required to move them.
Right from the warehouse to the store.
Yeah, an 84% reduction in transit energy costs is a deflationary shock to the entire supply chain.
Absolutely. And the adoption curve is already ramping up aggressively. Like over in California, Watt EV, this logistics company, just secured a contract to deploy 370 Tesla semi-electric trucks.
Which is huge.
It's the largest single deployment of heavy-duty electric freight in the state's history.
Oh.
But I do have to push back slightly on the optimism here.
Okay, what's the catch?
Well, the sources say this works with proper infrastructure. But what does proper infrastructure actually look like for trucks this massive? Because I'm doing the math on 370 Tesla semis. A battery pack capable of hauling 40 tons is enormous. It's roughly the size of the battery in a small neighborhood block of homes.
Yeah, it's massive megawatt draw.
So if you plug 370 of these trucks into the California grid at the exact same time to recharge overnight, you don't get a supply chain revolution.
Yeah.
You get a rolling blackout.
That is a very real concern.
The existing grid physically cannot handle it.
This raises an important question, and it's exactly what engineers are trying to solve. You are completely correct that dropping hundreds of these megawatt-scale chargers onto the existing public utility grid would be catastrophic.
Right.
But this is where the concept of proper infrastructure shifts. It's no longer just plugging a cable into a wall. We have to connect this freight logistics issue to the reporting from positive news.
Oh, the stories about communities taking clean power generation into their own hands.
Exactly. Electrifying freight isn't just about the trucks themselves. It requires decentralized clean energy networks.
So the truck stop of the future isn't actually pulling its power from a distant, centralized coal plant.
Exactly the opposite. The sustainable truck depots being designed right now are localized microgrids.
Okay.
Think of them like massive industrial rain barrels for sunlight. They use these sprawling solar arrays built right over their parking canopies, combined with huge on-site battery storage systems.
Oh, I see.
So all day long, they are quietly collecting and storing solar energy drop by drop, completely disconnected from the strain of the primary public grid.
And then when that massive fleet of Watt EV trucks rolls in at midnight, they open the spigot on the microgrid. They just drain the local rain barrel instead of draining the city's main power reservoir.
Precisely. And the long-term sustainability goals here are incredible. The immediate visceral benefit to you, the listener, is going to be profound.
How so?
Well, historically, major shipping routes and industrial zones have been heavily routed through lower-income communities, right?
Oh, yeah. Decades of chronic noise pollution and diesel particulate exhaust.
Exactly. By shifting to these electric fleets running on local microgrids, we remove those diesel emissions from the supply chain. The air quality in those communities will transform virtually overnight.
And the noise pollution aspect is just as massive. Imagine a major multi-lane interstate highway operating at a whisper.
It changes everything.
You remove the roar of the engines and the heavy exhaust brakes, it fundamentally changes the livability of the surrounding geography.
It really does.
So we're figuring out how to move thousands of tons of cargo silently. But here's where it gets really interesting. The tech sources push this even further, looking at how we change the way we move you.
Right, the personal transit side of things.
Yeah. They introduce a new mobility concept that directly impacts your daily routine, called the Monocab.
The Monocab is a brilliant piece of spatial engineering.
It sounds like sci-fi, honestly. It's described as a compact, autonomous, self-balancing passenger pod that travels on a single rail system.
And to understand the mechanics of why that matters, you have to look at the geometry of traditional transit. A multi-lane road or a normal train requires a massive physical footprint.
Right, it dominates the landscape.
It divides neighborhoods with these wide stretches of dangerous, noisy asphalt. But mechanically, the monocab pod stays perfectly upright on one thin rail by utilizing highly calibrated internal gyroscopes.
Okay, wait, how does that work?
Well, as the gyroscopes spin, they create angular momentum that instantly counteracts any tilt. So it perfectly balances the pod regardless of how the passengers move inside.
Oh, wow.
And because it only needs one single rail, the physical footprint of the entire transit system shrinks down to just a fraction of a traditional road.
It perfectly mirrors the design of that subterranean bee colony we talked about.
Exactly. It's this invisible, quiet infrastructure that weaves through the existing environment rather than just paving over it.
And these pods are autonomous and personal.
Mm-hmm.
So you aren't standing in the rain waiting for some massive, inefficient bus to fill up with 50 people on a fixed schedule.
No, the system responds dynamically to individual demand.
So if you combine monocabs with autonomous electric delivery trucks, the spatial mathematics of a city completely change. I mean, I'm visualizing my own neighborhood right now.
Yeah, picture it.
If personal cars and massive delivery vans are phased out for these sleek, narrow rail pods, we suddenly have 4 lanes of asphalt doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
The need for street parking, massive intersections, and concrete driveways just plummets. We are suddenly sitting on millions of acres of reclaimed urban real estate.
And our sources offer a very clear blueprint for how that reclaimed space will be used. The Positive News reports detailed England's aggressive expansion of Dutch-style cycle streets.
Oh, I read about those. And
Yeah.
this isn't just painting a white line on the side of a road and calling it a bike lane, right?
Not at all. A cycle street is a structural redesign of the hierarchy of transit. The physical road is narrowed, the asphalt is often paved red to clearly signal it's a non-automotive domain, and there are physical barriers that naturally cap speeds.
So bicycles and pedestrians have absolute priority.
Exactly. Cars are legally and physically treated as guests in that space.
So if you run a quiet, narrow monocab rail down the edge of a Dutch-style cycle street, the street ceases to be a dangerous barrier that divides a neighborhood.
It becomes a connective community space. You tear up the asphalt and replace it with greenery, expanded sidewalks, public seating.
You essentially unwind the most damaging mistake
Yeah.
of 20th century urban planning.
Right, which prioritize automotive speed over human connection. And this links directly to another really fascinating story in our stack about that pay-as-you-can restaurant operating in Stroud.
Oh, yeah.
That restaurant is actively bringing strangers together, fostering radical hospitality and social cohesion.
It's a beautiful concept.
It is.
Yeah.
But community initiatives like that struggle to thrive when a neighborhood is physically severed by an intimidating, noisy, multi-lane road.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody wants to hang out next to a highway.
Right. But when you remove the mechanical roar and the physical danger from the street level, you foster an environment where pedestrian engagement and local community building can actually flourish.
We are essentially replacing loud, dangerous brute force machines with quiet, responsive systems that actually serve the human scale.
Yes.
But, making this huge leap to autonomous pods, electric freight, and microgrids doesn't mean we just bulldoze the old world and start completely from scratch.
No, not at all.
True sustainability requires metabolizing our own industrial history. And I loved the story from the Good News Network this week about that abandoned, highly scarred coal mine.
Oh, the one reclaimed by nature.
Yeah, it's been completely reclaimed.
Yep.
Researchers found a thriving population of owls using the old industrial structures as a sanctuary.
Which proves nature doesn't waste existing architecture, it adapts to it.
Right.
And human engineering is finally adopting that exact same philosophy. The tech world right now is heavily focused on giving legacy hardware a second life.
Positive news highlighted those forward-thinking pioneers who were taking the obsolete infrastructure of yesterday and repurposing it for tomorrow's power grid.
Right, we are talking about taking early generation wind turbine blades that are too degraded to fly anymore and using them as structural building materials.
Or taking degraded solar panels that just aren't efficient enough for commercial farms and repurposing them for lower demand community projects.
Exactly. But the most vital application of this is battery storage. When the battery pack in a first-generation electric car degrades to, say, 80% capacity, it doesn't have the range to reliably power a vehicle anymore.
Makes sense.
But that battery still holds a massive amount of chemical energy. So instead of sending it to a landfill, engineers are daisy-chaining hundreds of these degraded car batteries together to create the exact stationary microgrids we discussed earlier.
Oh, the ones for the windrows and Tesla semi-trucks.
Exactly. The old car batteries become the rain barrels for the new logistics network.
I love that, taking fragmented legacy systems and uniting them to build a completely new foundation. It really reminds me of the on this day historical fact included in our sources.
Oh, the space agency one.
Yeah, on May 30th, 1975, 51 years ago today, the European Space Agency was officially founded.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the creation of the ESA is the perfect historical parallel for what we are going through right now with the green transition.
How so?
Well, in 1975, you had 10 disparate European nations, right? Each
Yeah.
with different languages, different post-war economies, and competing underfunded national space programs.
Right, all trying to do it on their own.
Exactly. And they realized that reaching orbit and making a massive technological leap just couldn't be done in isolation. They had to pool their existing fragmented resources, bolt their legacy programs together, and build a unified entity.
Wow, yeah. Our current leap in sustainable infrastructure requires that exact same mentality. We're taking the literal scars of the fossil fuel era, like those abandoned coal mines, and the obsolete first-generation green tech, and we're repurposing them.
Yes.
The foundation for our quiet, autonomous, highly efficient future is being built directly out of the remnants of the loud, brute force industrial age.
It is a process of deep, deep integration. We are finally learning to build infrastructure that operates with the seamless, invisible efficiency of the natural world rather than constantly trying to shout over it.
So what does this all mean? Well, whether we are drawing inspiration from the staggering hidden complexity of millions of solitary bees in Ithaca, or tapping into massive geological aquifers that quietly preserve centuries of fresh water beneath the ocean floor, the blueprint for the future is pretty clear.
Very clear.
It's about heavy electric freight networks that cut emissions and costs without crashing the local power grid. And it's about technologies like the gyroscopic Monocab that don't just change your morning commute, but fundamentally redesign the physical geometry of your neighborhood, but prioritizing human connection over the storage of idle vehicles.
Which leaves us with a fascinating, highly personal reality to consider. Well, as these technologies scale up, they are going to create a massive spatial and auditory vacuum in our cities. I mean, as monocabs and autonomous networks shrink the physical footprint of transit, and as electric microgrids eliminate the deafening roar of highway traffic.
The infrastructure we currently take for granted will simply become obsolete.
Exactly. Millions of acres of baking asphalt, sprawling multi-story concrete parking garages, and massive highway sound barriers will just be sitting there completely unnecessary.
That is wild to picture.
So the question for you to ponder is this. When the loud, gas-guzzling era finally fades out and the physical machinery of the 20th century is removed, what will your local community do with all that reclaimed space?
Yeah.
How will you choose to fill the sudden silence left behind?
Wow. Will it be expansive urban gardens,
Yeah.
unprecedented community centers, or perhaps something entirely new that we haven't even invented yet?
We'll have to see.
We will. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep your eyes open, and remember to look for the hidden positive shifts happening right beneath your feet.
This has been Better Side of the World. And somewhere tonight, something good is still happening.